Welcome to the Early Learning Summit, hosted by Capital Region ESD 113 and moderated by Carrie Blankenship. This is Session 4, Developing the Plan.
So I want to take a moment. Capital Region ESD 113 acknowledges that our main building in Tumwater is on the traditional lands of the Nisqually, the Cowlitz, and the Puget Sound Salish people. If you'd like to take a moment and look in, put in the chat, I apologize, I looked at the wrong note. If you would take a moment and put in the chat where you are joining us from, we recognize we have participants from all around the state, and so it's kind of fun to see the diverse tribes that are represented in the land acknowledgement. I'm opening my chat. I'll try to keep up with you guys today. I'm thankful I have Shiloh. Remember, if you need technical assistance or support while you're here, look for the logo of the Early Learning Summit. That's Miss Shiloh. She will be happy to help you. I see lots of my Chehalis people here. I too am on the lands of the Chehalis tribe currently. All right. All right, here we go. ESD 113 is committed to eradicating racism within our region and doing our part to promote racial equity and justice and dismantle systems of injustice. So I'd like to read this acknowledgement and offer a moment of silence and a time for those who wish to respond to that opportunity. We acknowledge the pain and trauma resulting from 400 years of racism in the United States. We stand with our communities of colors, especially those who identify as or are categorized as African American. We are committing to leading with racial equity, and we offer a moment of silence and honor the space for people from communities of color to respond to this acknowledgement first. You may use the chat box if you prefer, and we invite accountability and partnership in this work. All right, thank you. If there's anyone who would like to comment, feel free to do so. All right, thank you. I'd like to take a moment and thank the people who have kept me sane for the last 4 weeks. I've felt a little bit like I've said I was flying a plane over the ocean. I've never done anything like this. It was week to week responding to what your needs were. And so I felt like I was building it in midair over the ocean, but it went really well and I'm so thankful. So Shiloh, first and foremost, thank you so much for your technical support. We would be lost without her, y'all. I'm not even kidding. Thank you. She has kept me calm and sane. At OSPI, we've been blessed with the expertise of our leaders, Karma Hugo, Gretchen Starr-Brunig, Ryan Guzman, and the lovely Julie Dean. Julie has recently just joined us at OSPI, and she is such a treasure to have. And so we are very lucky to have heard from those ladies. DCYF, we had Nicole Lohr, Allison Beeson, and Alicia Brender. They brought so much knowledge and opened our eyes to the many possibilities that were out there and the many partners that we had in our neighborhood. I'm very thankful for that. Hillary Prince is the P3 Early Learning Coach at ESD 113. I literally would not be standing here if it wasn't for her. She has been my thought catcher, idea bouncer, my rubber band, my bouncy ball, and just there to pick up everything I need her to do. And I'm so thankful for her support. Sarah Southard from ESD 189 has partnered with us to promote this work and offered some back-end technical support. And again, they're handling our clock hours for us. Josie Komorowski at North Central ESD in Wenatchee, she has been a lifesaver. She's a wealth of resources and knowledge. And again, another one of those rubber bands and people that I have relied on. My other ESD partners, Devin McCauley Hopkins, Kim Lyman, Ray Allen, Courtney O'Catherine, and Kim Crummy have all been there to support me. They've been joining conversations, offering me input and insight, and ready to pick up anything I needed them to do. And then my fearless leaders at ESD 113 who have brave and bold visions and entrust me to execute those and give me full support and flexibility to do so. Abby Bowers, Russell Rice, and Dana Anderson. I thank you all for your grace and your patience over the last 4 weeks. And I really, truly could not have done this without all of you. I'm very grateful. I'm very fortunate. And so we are here at day 4. We finally have filled in the whole matrix. We've been on this great journey here, and I'm so excited for you today. You are in for a treat to hear from Dana Anderson about vision and mission building and developing our plan is where we're really going to sit today. We've taken a look at developmentally appropriate practices, that early learning landscape, the community and the neighborhood that we're in. Last week, we really dove in and explored some resources and thought deeply about a few key components to fall enrollment. And today we're going to go forward with our vision, and hopefully you will feel empowered and ready to go forth knowing that you can take a next step. I would also like to share with you 2 opportunities that you have. We have a fancy slide this week for transitional kindergarten, that informational session that's coming up with OSPI on March 30th from 3:30 to 4:30. That is in PD Enroller, and Shiloh is dropping the link into the chat. And then we have another round of Early Learning Summit that we will be partnering with ESD 189 to offer you. This is theory into action. So a follow-up to this summit, we've really talked about high-level best practices here, and a lot of you have questioned, but how? How do I do this? Where do I go next? Well, you go to this summit. We are going to dive into the practice and the application with you and explore. It will be a great afternoon. And again, it is free of cost. And I thank ESD 189 for, again, partnering with me in this lift. And I'm very excited that they will be hosting this and we will be helping them. And so again, there will be a link coming into the chat. This is also live in PD Enroller, and we'll revisit this at the end of our session today. One other thing that keeps coming up in the feedback that I want to address for you is the slides. You've been asking for copies of the slides. You want to share them out. We are going to have PDF copies of the slides for you. We will also have recordings of all of our sessions that you will have access to. The resource document that we shared last week that had all of the resources on all of the problems of practice, you will have access to that. And today we will be creating a connection matrix for you as we wrap out our tasks today that you will be able to have access to, that will show you kind of who you can reach out to and partner with among your colleagues to further your work. Those will be put into a folder this week and shared out with you. So you will be getting access to those. Same as we've had the last 3 weeks with the recordings, we have to double check. There's some editing and then closed captioning that we have to be mindful of before we send those out. All right. And with that, I am ready to turn this over. You guys buckle your seatbelts. Oh, goodness sakes, you're seeing the whole presentation. Going the wrong way. Buckle your seatbelts. You are in for a treat. Dana, I'm assuming you need to share the screen. So I'm going to stop share. Dana Anderson, our superintendent at Capital Region ESD 113, is here to share with you, and I will turn it over to him. Thank you, Dana.
You bet. Thank you. And I see I'm co-host. So if anything goes wrong in the background, like somebody's stuck in a waiting room or something happens, it's not Shiloh's fault. It's because something's going on and my role is co-hosting. So hey, give me just a moment here. Let me turn my screen share on and I'll pull up my slide deck. There we go. That's going to work. Subtitles starting, and there we go. So Carrie, I'm just checking in. Can you see my screen okay? Okay, excellent. I saw it on. Excellent. Well, thanks everybody for letting me take some space here with you this afternoon. For some of you, you've had the misfortune in the past and you're like, okay, Carrie said, buckle your seatbelts. I think what that is code for something really random is going to start this whole thing off. And I hope it makes sense by the time we reach the end of this trip together. But for those of you that haven't had the misfortune, my name is Dana Anderson. I'm superintendent here at Capital Region ESD 113. I usually drop the Anderson. I'm just going for Dana. My goal one day is to be one of those one name celebrities. I don't know if celebrity is ever a thing for me. It's probably too much to aspire to, but just Dana. That's how I see myself. In this journey of COVID, which we're almost exactly, well, for me, we're exactly 1 year into some sort of networking events. So this time last year, we had the first of our regional superintendents Zoom sessions, and we were talking about what's happening. Oh my gosh, this whole thing. Who knew that when at that time we thought it's going to be about a month, I bet. It's a good thing we're not betting on that. So here we are a year later and our world has changed, right? And so we have all these new tools, new ways of interacting. And I'm going to ask you to apply some of our COVID and Zoom learning skills and spend a little bit of time chatting in the background using the chat feature. For me, that's a form of engagement. I'm sure if I was in school today, someone would refer me to need some sort of intervention because boy, sitting still, bit of a challenge. Staying focused on one thing, also a bit of a challenge. So I love Zoom because I get to watch someone interacting. I can interact via chat and have to be honest, occasionally maybe respond to an email or two. So I'll ask you to not do that last piece. Let's sort of just stay focused. But I have this question for you to start us off. What are you afraid of? What is something that, okay, if somebody, I'm asking, what are you afraid of? Put that in the chat window. Here's something I'm afraid of. Could be, I'm afraid of people dressed up like clowns. They just scare me for some reason. It could be, I don't know what. I'll just be curious to see what sort of things pop up for you. When many Americans are polled, number one fear is year over year public speaking, followed by death. So I think that's kind of interesting. I'm more afraid of speaking in public than I am of dying. There's all kinds of things that we might be afraid of. So Carrie said when we had a pre-meeting, make sure that it's a focused message that's uplifting. So I thought I'd start with what are we the most afraid of and see how random I could go from there. And when I was a kid, so not a great way to start an engaging presentation, when I was a kid, one of the craziest things that it seemed like we were all afraid of was quicksand. Nobody named that in the chat, I'm sure. I don't have dual monitors up right now, so I can't really monitor much of that. But quicksand, I doubt anybody named it. But for some reason, it showed up in TV shows and movies. It's even part of The Princess Bride of all things. So quicksand was a thing to be afraid of. And I was a kid, if somebody would have asked me in 5th or 6th grade, what are you afraid of? I would have said quicksand. For some reason, it kept showing up. I'm afraid of getting sucked into something. And I got to wondering why in the 60s, 70s, and 80s was quicksand a deal? What was going on in the world that drove quicksand into movies and televisions? I mean, I'm sure none of us have ever walked down some path and suddenly saw someone stuck in quicksand, but it was part of entertainment. It was part of scary movies. It's part of comedy too. But why? Well, what was going on in the world in the 50s and 60s that was leading into entertainment? There was a significant fear worldwide that we were all getting stuck in some sort of mire. We were stuck in some space because of the big red menace. Russia was dominating the world, and folks were afraid that anything that the country got engaged in, Korea, Vietnam, Cuban Missile Crisis, things going on around the world, the conflict that was present in the world at the time, it seemed like was all driven out by conflict with Russia. And Russia was seen as, and the words that were used by politicians and others talking about it was, we're mired in, we're stuck in, we're being sucked into. So it's like our whole psyche was sort of drawn into this space of being sucked into quicksand, just over this conflict that was going on worldwide. And that got me thinking, thinking about the stuff I'm afraid of and thinking about what I was afraid of when I was younger and why I might have been afraid of that. And that got me thinking about what do we see in movies and television today? And, some of the things that you see in the world now that is part of our entertainment world, I certainly didn't think of as a great thing I was afraid of back then. Zombies, they're everywhere. I said, we've got Dawn of the Dead. We've got Brad Pitt starring in World War Z. Zombies are part of the world of entertainment. And it makes me wonder, well, what is going on in the world that drives that into our psyche and makes us think about and have it show up in entertainment? Well, it's around us all the time. There's this challenge of homelessness. There's this challenge that we see in all of our communities of responding to the needs of people. We don't know what to do. We see them walking, and I think sadly for many have lost the sense of their humanity. We see them as something other than a person. We label them. It's the homeless, and the homeless are like these folks that are wandering around in our worlds, and it's stressful, and we don't know what to do. We don't know how to respond. And this talk isn't about homelessness, but it gets me thinking about what is it in our world that's part of our psyche and some of the things that we're wrestling with, and how do we explain the existence of some of these long-term societal challenges, and then what do we do about it? Man, that's heavy lifting. So Carrie, you wanted an uplifting message to start with. I'm starting with this space of thinking about trying to answer a question for all of you. How do you engage in action planning? And many of you are very good at the process of problem solving and action planning, looking at group readiness, analyzing data, prioritizing concerns, setting goals, finding strategies to achieve your goals. But what we often struggle with is the change process, how we engage people in change and how we facilitate adults in shifting their mindset. So zombies and homelessness and mindsets are rolling around in my head, and I start to look for some research to the answers of these challenges. And I stumbled upon some research, came out of Canada, and a psychologist up there was studying homelessness and made the bold statement, they have lost their humanity and we just see them as these non-entities. And he was challenging that worldview. And he says, I'm trying to understand what causes this, what causes homelessness. What are the challenges that we see around us that we need to respond to? And we need to think about the role of being action oriented, that it's not about being passive and seeing a challenge, it's recognizing the challenge, digging into that challenge a little bit to try to understand what's underneath it, communicating with others what we're finding and what we're researching, and then drawing them into the solution. And so he's looking at one facet of homelessness. And as he looks at homelessness, there's all kinds, it's multifaceted. Again, it's not a talk about that today, but one thing that he was studying on was the addiction cycle and how that plays into either contributing to homelessness or grows during a time of significant trauma, like living in a homeless environment. And he studied the impact of opiates on the human mind, and did some MRI and brain scans, and analyzed and stumbled upon this interesting connection that the portions of the brain that light up in an addict's mind when they are actively participating in their drug of choice happen to be the exact same centers of our brain that light up when we are in the presence of someone that we are deeply connected with. I'll let that soak in for just a bit. The portions of our brain that light up when we are around our closest friends our most intimate partners, the people that we feel community with, those portions of our brains that light up under an MRI scan when we think about them or when we're in their presence are the exact same portions of the brain that light up when an addict participates in their addictive behaviors. He theorizes that perhaps we are wired for community and connection, and that there are shortcuts that are taken sometimes in our lives to try to meet that need, but what we're really longing for is deep connection. And so my point, got to have one, I'm sure. My points are these: that our society influences us in ways that we are often not even aware of, that we have many facets of our behavior, our entertainments, our world experiences that left unexamined, we don't even know where they come from. Why quicksand in movies and television? Why zombies showing up in movies and television? Society is influenced by and influences us in powerful but subtle ways. Our brains are looking for something. They're looking to survive. That's kind of the ultimate piece. But underneath that survival is looking for community and connection. And so we seek community connections and we seek the social connections. And I'm thinking of this in the context of early childhood. And many of our programs are focused on responding to the traumatic influences of child experiences. And those experiences lead to a thirst, a hunger for social connections. And the challenges, my final point that I want us to think together around are the challenges of our society that seem like they can't be overcome. Homelessness, racial injustice, generational poverty. We can treat the symptoms, we can respond to the things we see in the moment. We certainly should out of a sense of humanity. We should respond to what we see around us and react to the challenges an individual is facing. But from a societal perspective, to respond to that in a way that's going to produce change, we need to look deeper and we need to think earlier. So what I'm laying out for you is a case, and the case is why early childhood? And I'm thinking of supports for you as you go back and work in your communities, because you need to navigate a change process. You need to engage in a clarity of visioning that draws people in to really answer one question: why? Because in the change process, there's a lot of science behind this, studying how individuals and groups move through change. There are predictable stages that you go through. And the first of those changes is awareness. You have to understand the why, and then you need to build desire for the change and grow knowledge and skills. We focus on the knowledge and skills and we miss the why. So I want us to think together about the learning journey that you've been on in this summit and as part of your career. And we need to be able to systemically and consistently answer the question, why? Why early learning? And let's look at our society's values and think about how we invest in our earliest learners and respond to the challenges that they face and the assets that they bring to our learning environments and how we support them in meaningful and engaging ways. And we need to help our society see the why. We need to help our leaders in our community see the why, because until we've helped them see the why and engage them in the process of focusing most and investing the most in our earliest learners, we're going to be stuck in these consistent societal challenges that we experience generation after generation. We have undervalued early learning. And because of that undervaluing, we have not invested significantly in the system, and we have not resourced it adequately, and we've missed opportunities, and we spend all of our time and energy in intervention at the far end. When an individual has become homeless, we respond to their homelessness. We don't respond to the challenges and the opportunities that present them and us early in their lives. So why early learning? You know, the beauty of this is it's an easy question for us to answer together as a group. The research on this is decades old and very, very clear and compelling. And we need to tell that story over and over consistently to those who have authority in our communities, those who have resources in our communities, and those who can influence change along with us. So why early learning? Well, let's answer that question together. I'm going to try to answer it 5 different ways and point you towards some research. So, Carrie, I'll send this slide deck to you. You can edit out the zombie stuff, but there's some links at the end that focuses in on the content here. Why early learning? First of all, the research is very clear. It changes lives. It changes the trajectory of lives. That individuals who enter our system on one path, when you look at them and think, I know where they're coming from and I can predict where they're going absent an intervention, early childhood supports changes the direction of their lives. The RAND Foundation has studied this for decades. They have a body of literature around this, and they would say that this is what we do to most significantly impact the lives of those children we would identify as disadvantaged, coming from homes of generational poverty or traditionally underserved communities. So why early learning? It changes lives. It produces an impact that is beyond what we would predict from the placement of their life. Why early learning? If we create successful partnerships, it resources and supports the family to be a stronger unit. It builds capacity within the family to be more responsive to the things that they've experienced over time. And it shifts the experience in school. Because if we can create a better experience in engaging with and understanding the systems of school, the hidden rules of school, we resource the family in a way that they can navigate that system and they can have a better experience. And the child outcomes are pretty phenomenal. They have better attitudes about school. They have better attendance in school. They overcome adversity better in school, and they have better academic results. That's pretty good stuff. Why early childhood? Changes the direction of lives, and it builds the capacity in families through partnership. That's from research from the US Department of Education. Well, let's appeal to the people who are investment oriented. It shouldn't be that. It should be more based on humanity and our desire to be connected and supported with others. But if we need to answer this way from a dollars and cents perspective, it's a great return on investment. In consistent studies, depending on what you look at, if you look at the long-term return on early childhood interventions and how it breaks the school, the home to school to prison pipeline, and how it potentially takes individuals off significant interventions, $1 in can be literally hundreds of dollars out in return. Don't have to take my word on that. Nobel Prize laureate James Heckman has studied this and says, since World War II, if you look at the financial outcomes of early childhood, you get a better return investing money in early childhood than if you put it in the stock market year over year. On average, a 13% return each year on your investment. $1 in is $4 to $5 to $6 out in the school system, and literally hundreds of dollars out by the college age. And if an individual is prevented from having to be served or placed in an environment that requires significant intervention, including incarceration, could be thousands of dollars saved in society. So why early learning? It's a great return on investment. It changes the trajectories of lives. It builds capacities in families. It's a tremendous return on investment, and the results stick. One study conducted by Georgetown University that I will cite in the concluding slide is that the effects of a high-quality pre-K program, and it describes what quality looks like, and you've been learning about that through the course of this series. A quality program's experiences stick to as far as middle school. Now, we've been brought up at times by the critics of some of our earliest programs to say, you know what, doesn't really stick past third grade. That by any of the advantages that we see from pre-K are pretty much closed by third grade in terms of literacy. Georgetown University study says, no, not true. These things actually persist well into the later years of the school system. Some studies actually show a positive impact from quality early learning programs into college. So why early learning? The investment in early learning sticks. And last, it's how Carrie started our time together this afternoon. Why early learning? It's the significant lever for social justice. The National Education Association published studies and their position papers on early childhood and early childhood interventions. And they say that this is the most significant investment we can make as a system to break down the barriers that prevent traditionally underserved and disadvantaged families and children from reaching their full potential. Why early childhood? Because it changes the trajectory of lives, because it builds capacity in families, because it's a tremendous return on investment, because the results of that work stick through the course of our learning experience, and it's one of the primary levers for moving social justice forward. Why early learning? We need to be able to answer that question. We need to build awareness in our communities. We have to engage leaders in a thought process to grow their desire, and we have to resource them with the knowledge it takes to define what a quality early learning system looks like and prepare to make change. So this is hard work, but you are the champions of this work. That's why you're here. You're interested and you're engaged. And so here are my 4 suggestions for you as you think about how to move forward. The first is become expert in and remain grounded in the why of early childhood. If you consistently can answer that question and share your learning with anyone who will listen, you will begin to shift the narrative. Because our society has been influenced, just like the Russian menace influenced us to watching quicksand in movies, our society has influenced us by the belief that early childhood is not something to invest in significantly. We need to shift that belief. We have to change our society's perspective, and we start one relationship at a time within the communities that we're connected to. So learn about why early childhood, understand that, and share it with leaders in your communities. Seek opportunity to speak before the board, share with your superintendents and your school leaders, find community partners and draw them into the conversation so that they too can become champions just like you around early childhood. Second, I would suggest that you continue to gather research on what a quality program looks like and share that with your leadership. Understand what quality systems are and define that for your community based and grounded in research, and say, this is what a quality early learning program looks like. These are the characteristics of it, from facilities to staffing to curriculum to intervention supports and family engagement, any of the parameters that you would define. And then, gather data in relation to that. This is what quality looks like for us. So, and this is what our data tells us. And it's the purpose of self-reflection and engagement to define within your own framework, this is how we are doing, and engage in that reflective conversation for the purpose of prioritizing your needs and then beginning the process of managing this change. So your steps, continuing this evening as part of your action planning, but thinking about your work moving forward, I think are somewhat grounded in this. But we've all been through planning processes. We've all focused on how to do action planning, gather data, prioritize concerns, set goals, create some action plans. What we've missed, I think, is the humanity of change. The change requires a change in behavior, a change in values, a change in attitudes. And so change management includes, I think, a beginning place by clearly defining our why. Why early childhood? Let's share that story. So I'll post this in the chat, but also provide this last slide as my slide deck resource for you. Just a few quick links to some of the resources around early childhood programming for you to help springboard, perhaps, you're answering the question, why early childhood? Carrie and others are tremendous resources for you to help answer that question and gather that kind of resource for you. Our partners at the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction also have those types of materials. I strongly encourage you to build your knowledge base and understand the why of early learning. So yeah, it might feel like a bit of a quagmire, and maybe we walk around in this COVID world sort of like zombies, looking at this little screen and the squares of people. But we can get excited and we can be passionate about this change, because focusing on and investing in early learning is the best opportunity we have to change the direction of lives, to influence families, and to build a future that's different than the one that we currently inhabit, and reach our goals as an organization to close gaps, grow people, influence change, and eradicate racism. They're big deals and they're big goals, and sometimes they seem so lofty we can't make change happen, but it starts early, and it starts with investing in early learning. So I want to say thank you for participating in this series, for the learning you've engaged in, for the process you've been a part of by yourself or with your team And I hope that this evening you continue the steps towards implementing your plans for continuous improvement within this space. Carrie, I think my time has reached its limit. I know I don't want to invest in take away from the program that you have planned, and I want to thank you for the opportunity of just coming here and joining with you this evening.
Thank you, Dana. I appreciate you. Such great words of encouragement for all of us and validation for the heavy work that you all do each and every day. All right. I am going to share my screen here. All right, can you see my screen all right? Good, thank you. All right, I want to give you guys a moment to kind of ruminate on what Dana just shared with us. A lot of validation in there for you. Go ahead, I'm going to give you a moment to think about this and we'll engage in an activity. All right. If you could put your feelings right now into a word or maybe just a couple of words, we're going to do an activity called a chat waterfall. And so I would like you to type that word or those few short words into the chat, but you're not going to press enter just yet. If you don't have your chat open, you'll want to have it open for this activity so that you can see all the posts. Dana, thank you for sharing those resources. Give you just a few moments here to type your word or words in to describe how you're feeling after Dana's message. All right. I'm going to count down from 3. When we get to 1, everybody's going to press enter, and then you'll have a few moments to look through the chat and see how others are feeling right now as well. 3, 2, 1. Valued, inspired, validated, hopeful, optimistic, love it. Impactful, needed, yes. Yes. The work you do each and every day matters so much. And I'm going to skip ahead in my slideshow here for a moment because I just think it's going to fit better. We have to be impromptu if nothing else. Let's see. I'm going to stop my share for a moment, get on the slide that I want you to see, and then I'll reshare. Thank you for your patience. All right. Are you seeing my beautiful splash? This is your beautiful splash. You're feeling validated and affirmed right now because the work you do matters so much each and every day. This is that ripple effect where we never know who exactly is going to be impacted by the things you do, by the environment you create, by the opportunities you seek, by the connections you build, by the kiddo you reach, the family you empower. We can literally change the lives of each and every one of our students and their family and our society by the seeds we sow in early learning. Don't lose sight of that. Don't lose that hope. Don't lose that value. It's such important work, and it starts out the course of these individuals for the rest of their lives. As educators, we have the power and the privilege to validate, affirm, instill hope into kids who may not have experienced that in the beginning of their lives, and maybe they have, but it helps to hear it from someone else too. And we get to be that person. Do our kiddos face troubles in the classroom? Do they have struggles? Yes, without a doubt. And that's not going to go away. We all know this life is full of pit holes of hard times and travesties, no matter where we fall on a socioeconomic bracket or level of education. But we can shape the character of that kiddo. We can validate that family. We can validate their culture, their structure, their interactions, to equip them to withstand whatever happens in the world around them. And so I want you to take a moment and just let that soak in. It's so important. We'll come back to this ripple effect in a moment, but I thought that it tied in nicely with what Dana was sharing. We're going to back the train up for a second here on my screen. There we go. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes after you look at this beautiful girl. Her smile just makes me happy. She's just got light shining off of her. Close your eyes and take a deep breath. And just embrace those feelings of affirmation, of hopefulness, of joy. And we're going to engage in a little activity. I want you to envision yourself walking towards a building. The sun is out. The air is fresh. It's not too warm. It's not too cool. Your gate is light. As you enter the building, the light follows you in. You're walking towards a room, and you want to be in that room. You're eager to enter it and delighted to stay. A room that is ready to receive all your students. Imagine all the barriers that are starting to creep into your mind are gone. The can'ts, the hard parts, that we don't have the funding. I want you to imagine all of that gone. This is your ideal room to be with your students. What do you see? What's on the walls? What is in the room? Where is the room? What do you hear? What do you smell? What textures can you feel? I'll ask you what you can taste, but I'm hoping it's chocolate and not glue. I want you to hang on to your room. Go ahead and open your eyes. As you come back, we're going to go to a breakout room. And I want you to share your experience. What did you just experience as you imagined your ideal classroom? Be brave, be bold in this vision. Don't give in to the barriers that come up in the real world. This is idyllic. We're planning ahead here. We're envisioning a life without possibilities. What would that look like for you as an early learning educator? Shiloh's going to go ahead and whisk you off to breakout rooms. There should be about 4 people in your breakout room, and you're going to have 10 minutes to just share what that vision is. Don't discuss the barriers. Don't discuss the, we can't do that. Just ideal classroom. What would that be? When you're ready, Shiloh, you can go ahead and send them off.
All right, we'll see you guys soon.
All right. Okay, we must have everybody back. Thank you. I hope you guys got to have some good conversation in your room. Thinking about that idyllic classroom and what the possibilities might be. Thinking of our spheres of influence, I'm going to stretch you a little bit here. So for most of us, thinking about our classroom is a pretty tangible thing. We're there. But like Dana was saying, he was challenging us to be champions for early learning. And so I want to challenge you for our next breakout activity. Take a moment and think about what would your vision for your early learning program or district look like? So if you were thinking beyond just one classroom, and again, there weren't barriers, you could be in charge of how things happened, who did what was available, where you could be located, maybe even your start time, you know? What would you have? What would be ideal for a program-wide, district-wide vision of early learning for you? Think about transitions, access to resources, activities. What might that look like? Who might be involved? How would families be engaged? What would they be doing? What about siblings? What about grandmas? We have a grandma that lives in the driveway. She's in a motorhome. We don't leave her in a tent in the driveway. Don't get sad on me. All right. This time we're going to send you back. Our hope is that you go to the same breakout room. If it looks like you've changed, we might extend your time so you can get to know your friends, but we're going to send you in for 7 minutes this time because we're hoping you've already made friends. So we're going to send you back. What would your ideal be for a district-wide program-wide early learning experience. I'm seeing a lot of happy faces as you're coming back. That makes my heart glad. All right.
Yep, we have lots of ideas of how we want to change the world.
I love it. All right. I would love to capture these thoughts, and I would love to have time to share out here. Let's go ahead and take like 4 minutes, and I'll let you, a couple of you share out. What are your ideas to conquer the world?
Well, in Breakout Room 2, we talked a lot about if we could do multi-age classrooms. If there's a year, to bring back the multi-age concept of, K1, 2, and, just get them in the system, let them learn, see where they're at, all that sort of stuff before we say, oh, because they're 6, they need to be, this, that, or the other. So we talked a lot about multi-age. We talked a lot about supporting families, talked about outdoor environments. So yeah, those are the big ones.
Anyone else?
In group 3, we talked about how awesome it'd be if in the lower elementary and the pre-K and stuff, if they could have more assistance. And then also if every single student could qualify for preschool, because then it would just be so much better. But there's some families who, their kids should be really be in preschool, but they're like pennies over the, of what they would qualify. And so it's just ridiculous that they don't get to have that resource available to them. So all families qualify for it, no matter what.
All right. One more.
Our group 15 talked about the inequities in early learning and the salaries, the resources, things like that, and how public investment really needs to be there, that early learning is really something that should be, as someone just said, accessible to everyone, but the true cost of care is not it's not affordable to families, and it is not there, that's people that are working in the field of early learning in particular are really not able to sustain themselves in that way. And so to have good quality early learning, we need a really solid public investment in early learning to make it be quality, to make it accessible, and so children and families thrive.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and start a video for us. And then when it's finished, I'll have a few more things to review with you, and we should be done for the day.
I have spent my entire life either at the schoolhouse, on the way to the schoolhouse, or talking about what happens in the schoolhouse. Both my parents were educators. My maternal grandparents were educators. And for the past 40 years, I've done the same thing. And so needless to say, over those years, I've had a chance to look at education reform from a lot of perspectives. Some of those reforms have been good, some of them have been not so good. And we know why kids drop out. We know why kids don't learn. It's either poverty, low attendance, negative peer influences. We know why. But one of the things that we never discuss, or we rarely discuss, is the value and importance of human connection. Relationships. James Comer says that no significant learning can occur without a significant relationship. George Washington Carver says all learning is understanding relationships. Everyone in this room has been affected by a teacher or an adult. For years, I have watched people teach. I have looked at the best and I've looked at some of the worst. A colleague said to me one time, they don't pay me to like the kids. They pay me to teach a lesson. The kids should learn it. I should teach it. They should learn it. Case closed. Well, I said to her, you know, kids don't learn from people they don't like. She said, that's just a bunch of hooey. And I said to her, well, your year is going to be long and arduous, dear. Needless to say, it was. Some people think that you can either have it in you to build a relationship or you don't. I think Stephen Covey had the right idea. He said you ought to just throw in a few simple things, like seeking first to understand as opposed to being understood. Simple things like apologizing. You ever thought about that? Tell a kid you're sorry, they're in shock. I taught a lesson once on ratios. I'm not real good with math, but I was working on it. And I got back and looked at that teacher edition. I taught the whole lesson wrong. So I came back to class the next day and I said, look, guys, I need to apologize. I taught the whole lesson wrong. I'm so sorry. They said, that's okay, Miss Pearson. You were so excited. We just let you go. I have had classes that were so low, so academically deficient that I cried. I wondered, how am I going to take this group in 9 months from where they are to where they need to be? And it was difficult. It was awfully hard. How do I raise the self-esteem of a child and his academic achievement at the same time? One year I came up with a bright idea. I told all my students, you were chosen to be in my class. Because I am the best teacher and you are the best students, they put us all together so we could show everybody else how to do it. One of the students said, really? I said, really? We have to show the other classes how to do it. So when we walk down the hall, people will notice us. So you can't make noise, you just have to strut. And I gave him a saying to say, I am somebody. I was somebody when I came. I'll be a better somebody when I leave. I am powerful and I am strong. I deserve the education that I get here. I have things to do, people to impress, and places to go. And they said, yeah. You say it long enough, it starts to be a part of you. And so, I gave a quiz, 20 questions. Student missed 18. I put a +2 on this paper and a big smiley face. He said, Miss Pearson, is this an F? I said, yes. He said, then why'd you put a smiley face? I said, because you on the roll. You got 2 right, you didn't miss them all. I said, and when we review this, won't you do better? He said, yes, ma'am, I can do better. You see, -18 sucks all the life out of you. +2 said, I ain't all bad. For years, I watched my mother take the time at recess to review, go on home visits in the afternoon, buy combs and brushes and peanut butter and crackers to put in her desk drawer for kids that needed to eat, and a washcloth and some soap for the kids who didn't smell so good. See, it's hard to teach kids who stink. And kids can be cruel. And so she kept those things in her desk, and years later, after she retired, I watched some of those same kids come through and say to her, you know, Miss Walker, you made a difference in my life. You made it work for me. You made me feel like I was somebody when I knew at the bottom I wasn't. And I want you to just see what I've become. And when my mama died 2 years ago at 92, there were so many former students at her funeral. It brought tears to my eyes, not because she was gone, but because she left a legacy of relationships that could never disappear. Can we stand to have more relationships? Absolutely. Will you like all your children? Of course not. And you know your toughest kids are never absent. Never. You won't like them all, and the tough ones show up for a reason. It's the connection, it's the relationships. And while you won't like them all, the key is they can never, ever know it. So teachers become great actors and great actresses, and we come to work when we don't feel like it, and we listen to policy that doesn't make sense, and we teach anyway. We teach anyway because that's what we do. Teaching and learning should bring joy. How powerful would our world be if we had kids who were not afraid to take risks, who were not afraid to think, and who had a champion? Every child deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists that they become the best that they can possibly be. Is this job tough? You betcha. Oh God, you betcha. But it is not impossible. We can do this. We're educators. We're born to make a difference. Thank you so much.
Rita Pearson is one of my absolute favorites. She unfortunately has passed away, but so impactful and so true to that ripple effect and what we all strive to do each and every day. I love the +2. Change is hard. Change takes time. Change requires us to stay in the mire, to work through it, that quicksand that Dana talked about. It's not easy for us to climb out of that. Look for the +2. Look for the positive. When the data says we're not there, look for how far we've come. Look for the changes that you do see. And be that inspiration in the voice of light and dark. Bring it with you and spread it around your buildings. Just a couple of reminders on the transitional kindergarten informational session, but most importantly, the early learning summit that's coming up. That practical application, that how, those examples, putting it into action. Again, those are free. They are live on PD Enroller. We would love to see you there. We're going to have several sessions available that afternoon for you to pick and choose from. You'll get to engage in multiple sessions, and we look forward to diving into this work with you. I know we are out of time, so I want to give you my contact information and Hillary's contact information. If you need resources, if you need to know how to have a conversation, a tough one, don't be afraid to reach out. We are here to help. We are here to connect you. We are here to support you. That's what we do.